Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name's Lori Harris, and I'm managing partner of Harris Whitesell Consulting, and I'm the host of Maximize Excellence podcast. I am thrilled today to have Charo Toledo on as a guest today, and she is CEO of Charo Entertainment, LLC. We're going to be talking about maximizing your voice and your power. And I am going to say this up front. Put your seatbelt on and get a notepad out and get a pen, because Charles is going to give you all kinds of insight. She's going to delight you. She's going to inspire you. And there is going to be just a great, deep, rich dialogue today around storytelling and authenticity and how you can write your own story with your voice and your power. So today I want to share Charo's bio with you. And what I want to say is I have a lot to say about her, but I want to read this bio. And I love this story that Charo shares with everyone. She was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and she speaks 5 languages. She worked as a linguist for the DEA, and she took down the international drug cartels for 5 years. She earned the prestigious St. Michael's Medal for doing love of work. She was great at it. And this love for language that she has led her to transition into a writing career in Hollywood. And she's worked on groundbreaking reality shows. She's worked on game shows, comedy, dramas, telenovelas. Forgive me in advance, please, everyone. I am by no means Latina, and so my dialect and my pronunciations probably don't serve any justice that's due to some of the language here. So Charles going to be the one to show you that beauty, that richness in this language. And again, please forgive me in advance for trying here. She's also done soaps, features, sitcoms, and theater in both Spanish and English. She was the head writer and producer of season 2 and 3 of the Emmy-nominated Hulu show East Los High, and won a Sentinel Award for that show. She produced an international Emmy-winning El Vato on Netflix and was a consulting producer on Confetti Mexico, Facebook's highest rated show in 2019 with 10 million followers. She's shopping Felix Cafe, a comedy drama, and enjoying mentoring Latinx writers, women, and people of color to find their authentic writing voice. And her power is your voice. Her program is Your Voice, Your Power. There's lots more about her. I also want to share with you in 2023, she was recognized by No Women as one of the top 100 women in America to know back in April. And in May, I had the honor of meeting Charo at the international conference that was held in Phoenix. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Charo.
Hi, Lori. Oh my God. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. I am so excited to be here. I met Lori. You just had come in, right? To the No Women. We were like having something to eat and we didn't even know anything. And just the connection was immediate. She has an amazing background. I am just so thrilled. She has so much knowledge to share. And we just connected as boom, right in, like little girlfriends right away. So I am excited to be here because I really believe that your voice is your power. I believe that everybody, by telling their own authentic story, they own it, and they also share with the world what they're about. And so I believe that it is a tool to heal the world and to heal yourself and entertain and have fun.
Now you see why I connected to her, everyone. Everyone who knows me understands this connection was so natural and so wonderful and organic. So, Charo, before we dive in, because some of the questions are just deep and wide. So before we do that, share with everyone your business, and because your business is dynamic. It's an entertainment company, but it's dynamic. So talk about Charo Entertainment a little bit before we dive in.
So I created this company because I wanted to help basically women, people of color mostly, or people from the BIPOC or LGBTQ world, and people that are not usually seen on television. Yes, we have had some strides, but it is important that for me to teach what I have learned in my 20 years plus in this business on how to craft a story, the principles of storytelling, who, what, when, or where, what is the structure, there's a beginning, middle, and end, and also to approach it from a character point of view, because I feel that if people can talk about their character and who they are, and I have a background as an actress because I was an actress and then I became a writer, so everything I approach is from a character point of view. What's your objective? What does the character want? And I think it's very relatable, because if you know what your character does, if you're writing about yourself, if you know what you're going to do, if you know what you want, then you can write it. And then from there, you can expand and add other characters and other situations. And I think that I have worked a lot with actors. I have some wonderful clients that are actors that were like, I'm not seeing myself represented on television or film or anything. And I'm like, well, you have a great story. Why don't we write your story? And I go in there with them. And I know it's kind of like a scary thing, but it's not. Like, it's just like anything. How do you eat an elephant a bite at a time? How do you write a story? You start with a character. You start with the character, you really learn it very well. And if you know your character, then you tell your story. So I approach everything from a character point of view. Some other people go story first and character. And I'm like, no. Know your character. If you know what your character does, then your character could do anything and interact with anyone. And then you would know that. So it's kind of like a foolproof method. And I offer private sessions. I'm concentrating more on one-on-one people who want to write their own stories in whatever format that is. I also do like script coverage. I will look at your script and I will say, okay, this is not happening, this is wrong. Or if you don't know what you're doing, then it's like, okay, let's have a consultation and then let's break down what you can do. Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's an article, maybe it's a short story, maybe it's a feature film, maybe it's a television. I don't know. But again, every story has its own energy. It has its own life. It has its own, you have to listen to that, where, some stories cannot be a film. Some stories just are a short story, and some stories are, you want to make them into a television show, but they're film, because it's a clear beginning, middle, and end. And it just, so it's about finding your voice and your power. And a lot of women and a lot of women of color, like I'm just saying, we have been the nice girl. And so we are like, no, I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to. And I'm like, chances are that what's burning in your heart, somebody else needs to hear to heal. So go ahead and figure out and do it.
So before we hopped on and went live, Charo and I were talking about being transformative and transitioning. And Charo, you've done that. Who would have known that someone who worked in language and worked for the DEA and did what you did would then become a writer in Hollywood and doing the type of work you're doing now? So speak to transition, speak to that transformative process that anyone can go through at any time in their life. Speak to that.
So I think it's really important that, how can I say, like, we sometimes get stuck an idea in our head about who we should be, what should we have been and have done, and blah, 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 blah. But then you have to look at where you're at and you're like, wait, I'm not happy here. This is not working. And then you have to go inside and say, what have I always wanted to do? And so I feel that it's really important to go inside and meditate and write about it and just be quiet and not listen to the voices of shoulda, woulda, coulda, not listen to the voices of age, not listen to the voices of, well, my past or my background. Don't even, just really go inside, because what is the point of having this very successful financial life and this career when you're really unhappy? So I am encouraging in a radical way to be authentic to who you are, because our most precious commodity is time. And,
Absolutely.
you know,
It is. And how we manage our energy, how we manage our energy to our priorities so that time is optimized is so important. Absolutely important. And a lot of people right now are just in a reactive state, and getting them to be more responsive, especially leaders out there in the world of business. And I believe that, with what you do, Charo, it's not just for anyone that's looking to write a film or write a movie. What about these executives and leaders who are looking to tell the story of who they are in their role, or even their business as well, and getting to help them write those stories as well? I just think there's a dynamic there. And you mentioned that they get stuck in this transition. The other thing I want to prompt here for us in this dialogue is, there are common behaviors that do keep people of influence stuck. And some of them can be gender specific. So we know that there's 12 behaviors that are most common for women. There's 20 that are kind of gender related to both females, males, and others, as well as there are some that are very specific to those who might be male. So knowing there's behaviors that are out there that truly can keep you stuck can also come out in that writing process as well. So I want to ask you, as we dive in, I'm very curious. Have you ever wanted to tell your own story, but were afraid to do so? And if so, why? How does that play out for you?
Oh, okay. So in the hot seat. So I'm actually wrote a story that is fictionalized based on my family in Puerto Rico called Feliz Café. And I will, when the writer strike stops, I may have the opportunity to pitch it. And I have this wonderful showrunner, Kevin Murphy, attached. And it's basically loosely based on my family, but I had to go in. And what was fascinating, and one of the things that I'm really keen on, is to write in your own language. So we are in the United States of America, so people mostly speak English. But I ended up having to write 2 scripts. One that was more how I heard it in Spanish or in your own language, right? And then for American people to understand in English. And it's not a translation. It's kind of like these 2 different scripts, because language, I know, here we go. Language is, defines our reality. So if we don't have our language, then what are we saying? So I feel that I'm a combination of both American and Puerto Rican culture. And so this particular piece of work is just that. And you read the Spanglish script and you read the English script, and you get, it's 2 different languages, but you get the same experience. And for me, that was like, boo, like my brain was like divided in different. But I encourage people to write in their own language, however you hear it. And then you can always have a draft that it's all in English for executives or people who don't understand your language to listen to. So it was fantastic. It was extremely emotional. It took me a long time, because when you're writing from your own experience, you're like, what's the character? What's me? And then, wait, this didn't happen this way. So there's a lot of fictionalization that you have to do, especially for a television show, and even a novel. You don't want to. Also, you want to protect some people, so I change it names, I change characters, I added things, but it had a core about my culture, my language. We used to have a coffee farm, and so it has to do with that world. And it's a delight, because to be able to put down your experience that is very authentic and specific. And that's one of the things that Kevin Murphy kept saying, Char, what's really specific, what's really going on. and going into your heart. And, you know, my parents have passed. I think this is the only time I could have written it. Because I think some of the stuff would be like, oh my God, how dare you put that down?
And that could be the case for many stories, right?
Right.
That fear of truth, unarguable truth of what was and what is and what could be.
But at the end of the day, it's a work of fiction. So at the end of the day, like in this particular case, it's a work of fiction. I was so excited to hear you talk about leaders and business people who do have a story and who do have, I want to hear those stories. I want to read those books. I want to hear that because why? Because they have knowledge that could help me in my business that I have no idea about because of how they make decisions. I'm always incredibly surprised of highly successful business people because I'm like, how? Like some people just like come out of the womb like selling and buying like, you know, sodas and like, I don't know. I'm like, how do you do that? You know, it's such a talent. And I'm like, if there was a book about that is really like about their experience, you know.
Yes.
I wrote like, you know, it's needed. And some people say, well, it's my knowledge and I'm going to go to the grave with it, or maybe to my children. I'm like, why? You know, I think that they are cutting themselves off from being of service, because aren't we here in the world to be of service? I mean, this really is what we're here for.
Absolutely. And you also mentioned in this answering this question, you talked about how you felt about it all. You talked about you got emotional in writing, and in our business, we talk about feelings, emotions are part of whole body awareness. And when we're whole body aware, we're better able to make decisions. We're better able to collaborate. We're better able to see the bigger picture. We're better able to have that peripheral and have our senses opened. So we're more responsive versus reactive. And that feelings and emotions are nothing but energy. They're nothing but catalytic energy that's going to move us and do us, you know, get us doing and take us into action. So how in storytelling, how important it is that emotional aspect or the feelings, bringing in that state of feeling, those emotions to your story, and when are they appropriate?
Well, I think that the more you connect to, I go back to character, the more you connect to the needs and wants of the character, if you're really in there, you will feel it. And if you feel it, then you can write it. And when you write it and you put it on the page and people read it or perform it, other people feel it. So it's like a magic. It's like Harry Potter magic. It's like, oh my God, you feel it, you write it down, somebody else's reads it or hears it and they feel it. And they might not know what to do with all of that. You know, some of that stuff is scary, but at the end of the day, if you allow yourself to feel it, and it will heal you. And I feel that that's why I write, and that's how I teach, for people to feel and understand a particular area of emotion, life, maybe a conscious bias you had that is completely, you know, boom, because you are seeing a character that maybe you had judged because they were inferior or they were not good enough, or who are these people? And then when you really present their humanity, you have to take a pause because they are human like you. And so
and the feelings of joy. What about those other extended feelings that open us up, that really extend us, right? We talk about this as well. So we do have those feelings that are constrictive and hold us back, like you're saying, distort reality often. But what about those feelings and emotions sometimes of joy that you put in and help others write into their stories?
And I think that that's one of the things about that project, Feliz Cafe, that it has both. It has deep moments of family dynamics, but they also have like the funny cultural things that happen in that island, that only happen in that island, that is like relatable and funny and absurd and surreal, and trying to figure out two disparate things into a third one, that's when like real great comedy happens, in my opinion. Creating a third reality of seemingly things that don't go together. So, and it heals people. People laugh. People love to laugh. So
They do. They do. So let's keep going. We talk about relativity and resonating. What characters, female, male, others, what characters in television, film, and maybe in books that you've read resonate with you emotionally? Which ones have really helped shape and form you and in where you are?
Wow, that is a deep question.
That's what I love about talking with you, because
And
you
I'm
go
just
deep.
I'm gonna say something really strange. Sense and Sensibility. Uh, the book, but also when I saw the Ang Lee film and I saw Emma Thompson playing the older sister, and there's a scene there. I'm just the ultimate romantic, so I'm just gonna where she has loved this man in secret for a long time, and he finally shows up, and and you see that everything is contained, and then she just bursts into tears of years of wanting and having to do the right thing, and not. So I mean, the kind of moment, Olivia Pope, of course, Shonda Rhimes, Scandal lead, was really amazing. I mean, she was that character was very important. The girls in Sex in the City, I'm just being honest. And when we go into the Latin world, I would say that Isabel Allende is one of my favorite writers. She wrote a beautiful book about her daughter had passed, called Paula, and I don't know, that to me resonated in a very deep way, the love of mother and daughter, and how that was an homage to her, and on and on and on. And then there's some great comedies that I just laugh. And even in the Spanish world, I ended up working for this clown named Platanito. I know. I mean, he's just funny and deep and crazy and intense and surreal and pies in the face. So my taste in in the work is as eclectic as my culture. So there are Chapulín Colorado back in the day, which was this little insect that saved the world. So, on and on and on and on. So that's kind of like, it might make no sense to you, but
No, it does. And it does. And what I got from that is love, connectivity, connection to others, supporting others, seeing the world as opportunity, as prosperity, as good, in spite of whatever it is that's going on. So yes, I see a lot of optimism in all of those sightings that you just made on that. So I want to ask you, what challenges or obstacles have you faced in finding this authentic voice, and how have you overcome them in the work that you do up to now?
Ooh, wow. Okay, so this is a deep question, because this is going to have to do with identity, and it has to be with a Latina woman in Hollywood, and it's hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So that's why I've been so blessed to have such an eclectic career. So if scripted wouldn't work because they didn't like the script, understand it, or there weren't people or executives in place that would understand the work. Because I think that the way, in my opinion, Hollywood is, constructed, it's a big hierarchy. And so you got to go through levels of, for instance, your concept in order and be approved. So if the people that are looking at your concept do not understand your culture, language, or where you're coming from, it's very hard for them to go to bat for that, even if it's beautifully written, because then they have to talk to the other person, and this is a multi-million-dollar business where you have to gamble. So unless you have allies in those upper stratas, it's extremely difficult to get that done. However, because of the internet, because of smartphones, because of whatever, then you do your own content, which is what I go for. Okay, so that cannot happen. And then people says, well, there's not enough writers or Latino content. No, there are. So my purpose is to help all these wonderful Latino or BIPOC people write beautiful content, produce it, even if it's just a short film, own their IP, so that I'm trying to disrupt and then say, okay, I own this and look at this and this is good. And then you're going to, well, what's the audience? It's obvious that the Latino audience, for instance, is huge.
Right.
And they go and pay. So it's I go back to your question about personally, it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's just challenging and it's difficult. Yeah. But if you have a mission, if you have a purpose, if resilience is an amazing quality. And I'm not talking about stubborn, I want what I want, it has to be that way. I'm just talking about, okay, this didn't work. Let me analyze, let me look at that. Let me go back. Let me look at that and be honest and keep moving.
Yeah, we know that wants are all the root of all suffering. We know that wanting is suffering. Bottom line, I want to speak to this. I think it's amazing that you're talking about vulnerable trust here and sharing authentically the situations that you're in presently, as is challenging, and there's opportunity in that. This is what I love about you, Charo. You truly bring out this light that shines through all the fog. It shines through all of the obstacles. It squeaks in like the flower you see on concrete. In the middle of the road, you see this beautiful little flower blooming out in the middle of the road. That is absolutely you and where you're coming from. I love this question and your response to this, because you have something of just really, truly undeniable truth that has nothing but exponential opportunity in the world right now with storytelling, and there's not enough of it. And so I love how you've really narrowed your niche and you've narrowed your audience and your target to help these individuals and these businesses and these groups to truly better tell their stories and to better tell the story. So it might not just be a personal story. It might be a true story of other situations that truly can be solvable in the world. And
yeah, I mean, I have a student that I worked with her last year, Jennifer Behrens, and she wanted to tell the story of her family, and she came and we worked together, and she was filming it before the strike. I mean, she went and did it, and she raised the money and she filmed it, and this is her dream, and she's doing it. And I saw the trailer and I started crying because, I mean, I was so proud of her. And she was just, she went for it and she kept moving, and she went and filmed in Miami, and it was raining and it was like this, but she just kept moving, and she created this whole thing for herself and her family. And I don't know, she's a great example of somebody who's like, and then I have another client that I'm working with, beautiful Dominican American princess, I call her, and she's like, boom, and she's just showing up and creating the work, and this is her dream, and she's moving forward. And I'm like, inspired by the tenacity, and so it's kind of like a two-way street. And I am only coach and these women, but their stories and their talent and their push and their strength is, I mean, it's incredible. So I'm like, no, we're moving forward, and we're going to figure it out. And if this doesn't work, this other place will work.
I love it. And so talk about impact of all this. What kind of impact are these stories making? So, you're working with many, and you've also written many, and you've engaged in many and supported many and collaborated in many of these stories. So talk about the impacts that are happening.
Well, I think that, when I worked in East High, it was a group of people. We did a lot of, and we were dealing with very reproductive health, HIV. Like there were a lot of social issues that we were working on through the characters. And I know that show when we did it, it was a whole bunch of people. I mean, it was not just me, but it created an impact because people. First, there were Latino kids that were seeing themselves represented. It was groundbreaking at the time. I think that even the show that I did, Confetti Mexico, with Marilena Anaya, and we basically it was a game show, but we were able to bring fun cultural things, and it was trivia, and it was funny, and it was like people in Mexico, every time that the show came on, it was like they were on it. We had 10 million followers. It became a phenomenon. And then, so that was interesting and a surprise. They tried the concept in the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and the one that blew up was the one we were doing in Mexico. So again, you never know. I mean, I think that even El Vato, it was like El Daza was just the lead, and so just crafting a story about regional Mexican music and what happens and what are the obstacles, and that ended up being a huge, again, people being represented in an area that hasn't been seen before. So I feel that in some movies that I have written and work that I have done, I think at the end of the day it focuses on people that are not heard or seen, and all of a sudden they see themselves on screen, and they feel empowered, and they feel like, oh, there's somebody else like me. And that's why I believe so strongly in empowering writers to write their story and produce them, so other people can say, you know what, oh, look at that,
Yeah, there's true value in each and every true value. I love this because you talk about yourself in various roles and responsibilities, and in those roles and responsibilities, you also talked in a way that you shared how you did that, and how in certain roles where you were more collaborative or you led, and within all of that, the impacts of still being able to get that story out there and allow that connectivity to happen, and allow people to see themselves, realize that there's value and truth in who we are uniquely. Yeah. So thank you for that answer. It was beautiful. I love it. It inspires me too. All right, let's go from here, because we're talking about impact. Now, always when we do anything in life, when any human does anything, there's always going to be criticism and judgment, always, right? That's human nature. So what are some of the recommendations, insights that you have in managing that, and that could arise when people are either developing their story and writing their story, and then when they deliver it, and the impact there? So talk about criticism and judgment and how to navigate that.
That's a great question. I think that when we write something, we think it's for everybody.
Right.
Everybody. And it's like, no, there will be an audience that will really resonate with what you're saying. And there's some people that could not be bothered, and, and will criticize it, and they don't like it. And I mean, if you really look at yourself, when you go to the movies, or when you open up Netflix or Amazon or whatever, you're like, there's certain movies you see, or certain shows you see, and certain shows you stay away from. You can never catch me watching something about The Hobbit. It's just not my thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't relate to that. But some people are like, are you crazy? What are you talking about? You know what I mean? So that's so, and people say, well, you got to have a thick skin. That's a very big thing in Hollywood. You got to have a thick skin, and you have to let it all like bounce off. I mean, no, you have what does that mean? You have a human skin. So you are going to be hurt. If somebody writes a scathing review of your movie, show, television, book, whatever, podcast, that it's going to hurt. But then you feel the hurt, and then you say, okay, that's one. But look at these three. And that's not who I'm writing for. It's hard. It's still hard. It's still hard, because you want to be liked. You want to be successful. You want to be recognized. You want to have the awards. But at the end of the day, you will also receive a note, a DM, an email, a post that says, this changed my life. So how are you going to, so that's one person saying it's a horrible film, a horrible thing. And then there's this other person saying, you have changed my life. So what are you going to pay attention to? I pay attention to this. I have moved the needle for this one person who then can influence their partner and their children and their grandchildren. So so let's look at that and not at this. You know, I know it's hard. It's super hard. But just know that not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to like your work. Okay, pues adios, bye. I go with the people that like me.
That's great advice. Yeah. And we talk, and again, for us in our world, it's about managing that energy. The energy can come from feelings of sadness. It can come from feelings of joy. And so how are you managing that energy? And by the way, it's just another situation. And that's just nothing but information. What do we do with it? Right?
Right.
You're like, what do you do with it? You let it go.
And you know, I have a script that hasn't sold, and people are like, love it, love it, love it, love it. And I have to kind of sit with myself and say, wait a minute. Something here is not working, because if people love it, but it hasn't sold, there's something wrong. There's something not working, not wrong, but something not quite right. So I went to an expert. Charo went to an expert, because that's what you do. You won't go to somebody who knows more than you in that particular genre. It's procedural. And I went to this woman named Gina Gold, who's a fantastic writer. And she's like, okay, this is what you need to do. That's, you know, she offered a service of a thorough review of that script, which now I will rewrite in a different way. And I'm sure it will be successful. But again, criticism is good, like, especially in this world, like, but watch who you're getting that criticism from. If you're getting it from somebody who knows more than you and really understands that particular genre that you're writing, because I write in different genres, then pay attention, because they may have the key to take your work to the next level. So, I mean, I look at criticism in a very interesting way. You know, it's like, oh, because maybe what they're saying is not the right answer or the right fix, because you're going to get criticism from studio executives. But it's the note behind the note. It's like, algo aquí, something here is wonky, so let's sit with it and let's really be honest, and let's take our ego out, take our defensiveness out, and really open our mind and say, try to understand, what is this person trying to tell me? Maybe they're not using the right words. Maybe they don't have the right fix. But there might be something there that can help your work, your project, your story go to the next level. And that's when we have to be open. And that's the other part of the criticism.
So with that, how do you strike the balance between honesty and ensuring that that narrative continues to flow creatively? If even, so it may be even before you launch it, you know, you've gotten that criticism, that feedback. So getting that balance of honesty and ensuring that flow of narrative.
Like for this particular project, so I can talk something concrete. So this particular project, I wrote a script about taking down cartels when I was a linguist. And so people loved it, but there's too much action in it, and there was not enough character. We didn't follow the main character. That's basically the thing. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just cut story, and I'll just focus on this and take this out and refocus. It's like a lens in a photography. So it's like you have to adjust your lens. And I know you're a photographer, so I know you understand that metaphor. So it's like you just have to adjust the lens. And so as long as you understand it from your honesty and authentic self, then that's how you translate it into action and keep the integrity of the project. I think the problem starts when people start giving notes that they want what they want from above and don't understand the whole thing. And then you implement that note, and then you end up with a result that is not authentic, I mean, incorporating notes is an art in itself. In criticism, it's an art in itself. Usually you do not do it literally. You have to see and understand what's behind it. So maybe they give you a fix. No, we'll make her a golfer. What? It's nothing to do. But what they're saying is that maybe the character doesn't have enough action, so they want her to be swinging, whatever it
I
is.
love your workshop that you offered just recently, Your Voice, Your Power. And you put us through that exercise. And by the way, I'm not a writer in that sense. I took her course to just, I was curious. You had me so curious about writing. And so I took it, and the exercise of you threw a character out there and had us write about it in relation to and relative to what we already wrote. And I was like, how am I going to do that? But you got me there. And I was like, oh, you talked us through it. And I said, oh, it works. It really does. It was very dynamic. Giving that, being able to change perspectives and be open to changing perspective really did help me move the needle in my writing. And that was fun. I found that to be incredibly fun.
I'm going to do it. Yeah, I'm thinking of doing it again on September 14th, the free master class. So I'm going to do it again because I feel like people really were like, what, you know? And when we were in the class, we had that young man that we had like, and then about blues music. I'm like, well, write the blues, write the song, like, you know? And so it became, sometimes it's like, what? No, I can't do that. You know? Go for it. What are we losing? You know, let's just take a chance. And that's how creativity and you just, it's exciting. It's fun, you know?
Right.
And don't be concerned whether it's right, whether it's perfect. I mean, I always say in my sessions, there's no right, there's no wrong, there's no perfect. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that because and one of the things that I want to, in my gravestone is, you cannot create and edit at the same time. You cannot create and edit at the same time. If that's all you hear today is that you can't create a piece of work and be out there and anything goes. And then every sentence saying, no, this is not right. Oh no, you'll never get it done.
I would say that's true for just about everything in life, whether you're in a business meeting, whether you're at the grocery store, or you're in the kitchen cooking, or you're on a date with your husband and your boyfriend or girlfriend. I'm telling you right now, that probably you cannot create and edit at the same time.
That's when all that crazy anxiety comes in, and it's like, what?
I love it. Oh, this is fun. So I want to go back to this uniqueness and culture and social and historical context. So have you considered the cultural, social, historical context that may influence how your story is received? So talk about that and why it's important and the impact it makes.
Well, I feel that anything you write is a statement of who you are, of your culture, of your race, of your language, of your experience. So writing is political, whether you want to say it or not. Even entertainment is political because what you're choosing to make fun of, what you're choosing to, again, the lens, what are you choosing to focus on?
Right.
How are you choosing to put it together to create a new experience of something old or something? And all the stories have been told, but because of your culture, of your language, of your experience, of your beautiful, unique trauma, it's what, AI doesn't have trauma. Hey, AI doesn't have trauma. So that's why I'm saying unique and authentic stories, are important. And also it's kind of like taking a vacation, you know what I mean?
So how do people do that and still honor their emotional well-being? Because like you said earlier, you said, oh my gosh, I'm glad my parents aren't alive today because I probably wouldn't have told that story.
Well, I think that there is a shift, there is real life and then there's the page.
Right.
And what I love about the page is that you can recreate life.
Yes. Yes. You can dream and you can be inspired and you're motivated.
Relive it again in a different way.
Yeah. Beautiful. So let's dive back into balancing the need for vulnerability and openness. And by the way, we in my world call that vulnerable based trust. So this is about creating trust for yourself, sharing out trust, creating that space for trust, and having people trusting because you're trustworthy, right? So how will you balance the need for vulnerability and openness with still protecting your own boundaries so that when you finish this story and something's done with this story, you can honor it, you can feel good about it, you can stand with it and stand for it, right? Yeah.
So I think that there's layers of this,
Mm.
and there's inner circles and outer circles. So in my own life, when I create something new, there are only few people that are allowed in that initial raw place. And it's people that I trust. I trust them as people. They trust also their storytelling industry. So there's some people that I will not share the rawness with because they would not understand. It's in life. Not everybody can handle everything.
Knowing your audience, right? Knowing your audience. You've always got an audience.
So you have these, I have these people that I say, okay, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And they will come back and feedback. And like my friend Victor Duenas or my friend Lynette, my producer Lynette Cole from Feliz Cafe. Like there's certain people that I would throw something out. I trust what they say, and then they can give me feedback. Then when I feel technically and authentically that is okay, then I'll share it with somebody more professional, like Kevin Murphy, Kevin Dowd, like somebody else that I feel like, okay, they're going to be giving me a different kind of feedback. But at least I feel that the core of it is solid before spreading it out. And then they will give their feedback. So then the project starts growing. And then when it gets out to the world, it has been kind of like foolproofed in a way. In terms of the balance of authenticity and exposure and a technique and all of that. Make sense? Did I?
Oh, absolutely, it does. And so what comes to mind for me is, what about those situations in telling these stories where there may be legal matters to address or ethical considerations to address that arise from sharing out your authentic story? What about that? And what recommendations do you have for that?
Get a good lawyer. Get a good lawyer. Every studio has their business affairs, their legal people. There's a lot of rules about what's allowed, what's not allowed, what FCC allows, how to use, references. You have to fictionalize certain things. I mean, that's a whole level of intellectual property and entertainment law that I don't know about. So I have a good attorney. Her name is Brenda, Brenda Chavez. And so she will give me advice with all those matters that I don't know about. But rule of thumb is that you have to fictionalize, you have to change names, you have to combine characters, you have to, you know what I mean? I don't know how Dick Wolf has done it all these years. He has taken real cases and done franchises. And so there are other people. I will always tell you what I know and what I don't know. This is get a good lawyer that understands and can really advise you in this matter. Because I don't know. What I have done in my past is just combine characters, fictionalize cases, do things like that. So things are inspired by, but they are not exactly the same thing.
So, Charo, in today's market, everybody's writing a book. Everybody's actually self-producing a lot these days, and storyboarding and writing is done on the whim quite a bit these days. A lot of people, lots and lots and lots of stories out there, and we see it on a very raw form on social media. People putting their lives out on social media as well, and so this dialogue around the legality and the ethical considerations, et cetera. Not everybody is attuned to, nor do they have responsibility around this sometimes. And then there's those that have great responsibility and go out of their way. But what I find most interesting, the great ones they don't do it alone. And you just mentioned that. I highly recommend to hire a good lawyer. And you talked earlier about having a team of people around you. You talked about having someone that you can go to as an advisor and someone as a mentor. And you actually hire people to review your work and look at your work. And these are things that internally in organizations that we recommend as best practices, right? You cannot do anything great alone. And we stand on the shoulder of giants in a lot of ways. However, bottom line, in product, if in fact you did write it or you were the creator of it, and you get to, take that milestone and run with it, right? And do something with it. So that whole process of engaging with others, and we talked about trust. We talked about putting good people around you. You talked about the challenges and the obstacles that sometimes come up. Where I'm going with this is the process that you go through by no means is simple. If anything, it's simply complex. The bottom line is you want to write. Correct. And you want to tell a story, but it's truly a complex thing. And talk about the responsibility of that and why that's important to be a good steward of this process.
I think that we are limited. We have, as much as we want to think that we are really evolved and blah, blah, blah. We are still in this human's form, right? So because of that, we will have blind spots. So, and biases and all kinds of things, unconscious biases, all kinds of things. So it's really important to, for instance, in my Feliz Cafe, I have my older character is, my older son is gay. He's gay. So I wanted to create this really hot, sexy, and I kind of talked to two of my gay friends. I says, hey, would this work? Because I have an idea of how it would be, and I have seen what it's on the media, but I'm like, can I do it like this? What do you think? What do you think? And and so again, asking if you're writing about somebody from a particular point of view, going to that particular point of view is important so that you get an experience that makes sense. And so I think that's the stewardship and the accountability of when you are writing a character that is far away from you or not you, or you need to really dig in and investigate and not just do a trope or a stereotype about it, to just quickly put it out there. I feel anything you put out there has a message and you have a responsibility. I don't do it 100%. Well, my effort is 100% in trying to represent characters with dignity, depth, and reality.
So how might one maximize their voice?
In terms of like a character, or what do you mean?
Telling their story. How might they maximize their voice for their story?
So I think you really have to have a conversation with yourself and say, what do I really want to say? What's really hurting inside? And I'm not saying it's going to be a drama, because the most painful things can be the most incredible, funny comedies. But go in and say, what do I want to say? What has always been bothering me? What do I really want to work through in this because when you write, you work through a lot of things, and also you get to see them really starkly, and then you're like, oh, you know. Um, so to maximize your voice, you got to go in and you got to write. You just got to write, and you don't edit. You just write. You let your heart pour out. Then later you can edit and organize and put it together and whatever. But you are doing it yourself a disservice if you at least once in your life do not write your story down.
All right. So we've done that. We've maximized our voice. Now, how do we maximize the power? Our power.
I think that you need to tell it.
Ah, yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. So, what are some of the media? What's some of the avenues, the distributions that you feel are best for today in sharing your story once you've got it written or produced or whatever? How do people? What are some of those channels?
So that's the big question,
Yeah,
distribution. That's the big question, distribution. I mean, a lot of like people like Issa Rae, she started in YouTube. She did her whole series, then she got picked up for HBO.
right.
So there are many, many networks, many streamers, many platforms. In order to get to an Apple, a Netflix, a Amazon, if you're going to do a show, you need an agent. I have a great agent, Brett Rosenfeld. And so then it would, because of the way the system works, the studios don't want to feel that we were going to sue them because they had a story similar. So you have this agent situation, you have managers, you have a system here in Hollywood. However, one of the wonderful things that has happened is Amazon has, they book publishing. You can self-publish your book.
Yes.
The closest to that would be social media, TikTok, YouTube, platforms like that, where you can, produce your content and put it out there. There's also the route of all the independent films, so if you have a film, there's all the festivals, and that's a whole other process. You know what I mean? So, and some people are trying to make their own streamers. There's a lot of independent streamers, your own app. But I think that that's the hardest thing for BIPOCs or whatever. What is that distribution? What does that distribution look like? And I have not cracked it, Lori. I have not cracked it, so I don't know. But I think that that's the next level.
I think it's something you're working on diligently. The beauty of meeting Charo is that I've been able to keep in touch with her, and it's just been joyful because she gives me little tidbits and updates, and it's exciting to honor and celebrate with someone in a totally different field than I'm in, and just have joy for them. And I get a lot of joy out of just listening to you tell me, oh my gosh, I did it, and I'm going, yes, I love this. And the joy of knowing that at the right time, in your time, it will happen, and it will be what it's supposed to be. And that's because you put your heart and soul into it. Authentically, if I may say.
Lori, you are fantastic and amazing. And I just wanted to thank you for this opportunity and this talk. This has been incredible. And I think that one of the things that where I'm living now is no expectations. I'm doing my work. I'm putting things out there, and let the universe, God, whatever you believe in, rearrange the pieces and just show up. Sometimes you just have to show up.
Yeah, you do. You do. So when's your next workshop again?
It's going to be September 14th. I'm going to put it on my social media and Charo Entertainment LLC and Instagram. I'll also send out emails, and I'll put it probably will be an Eventbrite. So I will schedule all of that up and have, everybody who follows me.
So if everybody goes to your website here, charotoledo.com, they can find all the information.
Yes, they can go to that, or they can go to my Instagram, and I will be posting later today. So it would be September 14th, probably from 6 to 7, like, the one you experience. And I'm really looking forward to basically working one-on-one with people. So that's, I think that the best use of my time.
Okay.
And
Is that Pacific Standard Time, by the way?
yes,
Pacific. Yeah. Okay. Good. All right.
I'm in LA.
Yeah, I'll make note. I'll definitely make note of that. And then, what's one last thing you want to leave everybody with, Charo?
Well, the one thing is that your voice is your power, and dare write your story. It's not that hard.
Reach out to Charo, because I promise you, someone like me that's a beginner in all of this, man, was it fun, and it was an eye opener. It was a heart opener for me, and it really did give me. It gave me lots of great energy, and it moved me. It moved the work I was doing, the challenges that were in front of me. So thank you, Charo, for that. And again, everyone, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. Charo, really quick, we had a couple comments, so I just want to share. 2 amazing women. I look forward to your nuggets of wisdom. And the other comment was, this is exceptional electricity being generated. And then we have a beautiful Cuban flag flowing. So bravo. And what I want to ask you to do is in your language, I want you to share out one last thing.
Okay. Recuerden que su voz es su poder. Ustedes pueden escribir, los quiero mucho, y recuerden que su autenticidad, su historia, su cultura vale.
Ah, I love it. Love it. Whole body expression. I love it. All right, my dear. Thank you for joining us and being a guest on our show, Charo. I love you dearly, my friend. And I look forward to hearing all of your new successes the next time we touch base. Everybody, again, please visit Charo Toledo at charotoledo.com. Visit her Instagram page. She's also on LinkedIn and Facebook. You can touch her and she will respond. She's such a connected person and she's so joyful. I hope you find her just as much enjoyable in life as I do. So thank you again. This topic was amazing. I appreciate you a lot.
Thank you.
All right. Take good care, everybody, and make sure you maximize excellence. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Maximize Excellence. Visit our events page on our website for details on upcoming podcasts and visit our YouTube channel to listen to past episodes. And remember to ask yourself at the end of each day, did I do my best to maximize excellence today?